Hello, guys. Welcome to another episode of the G is for Gossip. I am your host, Yvette Powers, and I am here with my co-host, Tatiana Smith, and we have a special guest today, Karen Cox. We will be learning a little bit about her and everything she does. So, Karen, can you introduce yourself?
Sure thing. I am married to a Mason and a Shriner. Cody Cox is my husband. He's been a Mason for about, now it's been 6 years, but we've been married for 19 years next weekend. And we're high school sweethearts. We have been avid travelers. We love to go out and find as many cool historical things as we can when we vacation. I currently am a self-employed graphic design and social media consultant, so it's super flexible for us to go whenever he's free. He's a high school teacher, so we do enjoy traveling. We have a dog and a cat, and we don't currently have any two-legged children, just four-legged children. And our involvement in the Masonic world has been a fast kind of crash course, I guess you would say, in building a circle of friends quickly. So now here we sit a few years later, and it's a pretty big part of our lives.
Perfect. So you said you've been married for 19 years. Happy anniversary.
Thanks.
Weekend. And 6 years. So you actually were married and he was not a Mason yet.
Yes.
Right. How was that? Tell us a little bit about how you felt with him joining Masonry, and have you heard about Masonry before that?
I had. I was fine with it. I didn't truly know all that I now have gotten the scoop on, but my great-grandfather was a Mason, and my grandfather's brother was a Mason and a Shriner. My grandfather was a military man, so it was hard for him to join and do things until after he had retired, but even still, he didn't show much interest in that. So I had heard of Masonry. I have relatives. I had a great-grandmother that was in Eastern Star, but they didn't talk about it too much because that generation had the keep everything secret and keep everything, on the minimum discussion. So they didn't really talk about it too much, other than we knew that they were involved in it. But when he decided to join, I was actually pretty excited because I thought I was finally going to get to understand a little bit more, now that he's going to have the inside track. And of course, all the things that you hear, or the, how many sacrifices are they going to make, or, all the crazy stuff they talk about, And so, he quickly got the truth, and he was laughing at it too, because he had been told the same thing. And so we both have been learning about it ever since he joined, but we both had heard about it, and he shown an interest from actually a coworker. And with when they struck up a conversation, it all just kind of started there.
So he's been a Mason for 6 years. When did you start getting interested in joining a women's group?
Well, he was only in for a couple of years at the Blue Lodge level only. And then one of the guys at his Blue Lodge invited him to come to some shrine functions. And so when we went to one of it was a social party, might have been a ceremonial or something, where they did an after party, we got to meet a bunch of the different members. And I had heard about other opportunities and other appendant bodies of Masonry for women, and I didn't know too much about them. So at that point, I had heard just about Eastern Star as something that a lot of communities had. Daughters of the Nile was the other one that was pretty heavily represented at that function, and a lot of them shared their passion for their philanthropy, the Shriners Hospitals for Children, which is the same philanthropy that the Shriners International focus on. And so I thought that was a cool thing, because with Cody being a Shriner, that would give us the opportunity to share a philanthropy and a purpose. But the nice thing was that Nile would have been for me, and the Masonry and the Shrine would be for him. So we would be able to do together, but I'd still have my own time and my own functions to go to, and be able to not have to be just in his shadow kind of thing. So.
Right. So how involved do you say you are in his journey through Masonry or the shrines?
I'm not, I'll be honest, I wasn't super involved in his journey at the Blue Lodge level. They were a lodge that had a very small membership that would attend regularly and would do a lot of the actual jobs or help. So there wasn't a lot of times. They actually had a couple of wives that would come to dinners, and we would visit, and we actually would talk about, maybe we should find something for ourselves. And then the course of life took him to a new position at a different school, and he changed lodges to be closer to home and work. And I still kept looking for that organization to join. So for his Blue Lodge, involvement, it's been just as a very kind of supportive, help set up for a meal or clean up from a meal, or maybe if they have a work day, something like that, to just kind of be there whenever he needs somebody to help out.
Perfect. So tell us a little bit of your involvement in what you do now. Like, what are you responsible for in the group that you belong to?
So I have a few different hats that I wear in Daughters of the Nile. When I joined in 2015, it was their statewide conference, I guess you would call it. We have 13 temples in Texas, where each of our groups or each of our locations are considered temples, and they have a state get together, and they do a initiation, and I came in then, and everything changes in the spring. So I had about 5 months to get my feet wet, and then I drank the Kool-Aid. I got excited and was super, interested in all the different workings and things like that. So I signed on for membership chair. And that's been my primary job for the last 4 years. And then I've also had some opportunities to have speaking positions during the ritual time whenever we have a meeting. And I've helped on a couple of the other committees and been involved with fundraisers and things like that. And then because of our success with membership, we've actually seen quite an increase in our new ladies coming in and joining. We have worked very well with our shrine. We have a good working relationship. So we've been able to meet up with the ladies from their ceremonial events for the past few years. And with his involvement with the shrine, he actually took on the role of membership chair himself. And we together are now on the membership team for Shrine, and I'm the ladies program kind of contact coordinator for their, helping communicate about their functions. And whenever there's a ceremonial, having them have the information and kind of explaining to them what their husbands have just decided to do and brought them on board for. So with that, it's been kind of a team effort with membership across both groups. And then just with the Blue Lodge now, he's a secretary, so they're helping them again with their, their different things that they have and fundraisers they do or functions. But for the most part with Nile, it's membership and kind of PR and communications so that we can get the word out about our organization.
Does every shrine have that position for a woman to fill who talks to all the women?
No, that is not something that a lot of the other shrine temples have. We were lucky enough to be able to go to one of the imperial trainings for membership a couple years back, and it's something that at the national or international level they are advocating for the involvement of women. But there are still some shrines, and as we know in Masonry, there are some that just have a good, strong foundation in the all men's involvement with little women's involvement. So it takes a forward-thinking shrine to have something like that. And our shrine in Fort Worth has been very open to working together with the ladies, because there's a lot of moving parts and they need a lot of hands and a lot of help. So they've welcomed the involvement of the women. So having a ladies chair has been something that they've been very receptive to, and I find them very supportive.
So you said that you're in charge of membership for the Daughter of the Niles, or have taken on that committee. There's other groups, like for instance, Eastern Star, and I'm seeing that a lot of them are struggling with their membership.
Right.
What do you guys think that you guys are doing differently that's helping you guys get all these members, that you guys are attracting new members?
I think for us locally, we're very blessed that we have a very open-minded membership in our longtime members. Our average age is at our temple about 50, but I would say internationally closer to 65. And they've had, they've had a lot of different situations over the years that have, I think, given them the opportunity to reflect and know that they have to, be a little more receptive to the younger crowd, embrace the family aspect, have younger ideas, newer ideas, because obviously what has been done in the past is not still working as well as it could have been. So opening up, the suggestion box for us newer, younger members to be able to give feedback, I think has helped immensely with the at least for the supportiveness of being like we're being heard and that we have an actual voice.
Does the Shriner membership and the Daughters of the Nile membership, do they kind of increase at the same time, or does some?
It depends. Historically, for as many of the organizations have been, they've been on the decline, and for us here in Fort Worth, we're starting to see an increase. I think we're always going to have the battle of trying to bring in more people as the aging population, finally goes to the great beyond. And so it's one of those things that now it's such a necessity to make sure that when we're bringing these people in, we're retaining them, that they understand, that it's not going to be this huge group that it once was. Right now, we're still trying to just keep our numbers from decreasing. So if we can maintain, it's always, the best possible scenario. I mean, ideally we'd have a growth, and our temple has seen growth for the last couple of years specifically, and the organization as a whole internationally for both Nile and for Shrine have seen a decline. So it's one of those things that it's very dependent on their local temple and their thought processes and how their relationships are with their other Masonic affiliated, organizations. It's a lot of different components that would weigh in on that for each area.
What does it take to be a Daughter of the Nile?
Okay, so eligibility to be a Daughter of the Nile, and I'm going to read this so that I make sure that I get it absolutely correct, because it is long, is that you are to be a woman 18 years or older who is related by birth or marriage to a Shriner, a Master Mason, a Daughter of the Nile, or is a majority member in good standing of a Masonic-related organization for girls, or who was a patient with or without Shrine or Masonic relationship at a Shriners Hospitals for Children. So that's a lot of different ways to be eligible to join.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Have you traveled to other, what do you guys call your temples, you said?
Temples. Mm-hmm.
In other states for different ones for the Daughter of the Nile?
I've traveled to the Supreme Session, which is what they hold at their national or international level each year in the summer. I've visited just a couple of local temples here in Texas, but I've not actually visited them during one of their business meetings. So it's been for social or fundraising events. But there is travel opportunities to go and visit so many of the other ladies around the country, to see their facilities, to be able to be a part of their events and programming. So it's been something that every year we try to plan a couple of different trips to different temples or to the hospitals, even to work with the patients, have parties for them and bring them gifts and treats and things for the hospital's staff to use. So lots of travel there.
Okay. And this I think maybe asked a little bit before, but do you think that this has impacted your marriage a little bit, or maybe not word impact, but affected your marriage in a great way, or you know what I mean? And
oh yeah, I mean, life is different. Life is different because we're busy. We're both really involved. We're both very passionate about being available for the different functions, or to be able to help whenever there's a fundraiser or a social party that needs people to help work it. So we are definitely a different dynamic than we were before. And there's some weeks where it's 5 nights a week, or maybe 3 nights a week and Saturday and Sunday, like this week. So it's especially this time of year, and because we're both on a couple of committees in 2 different organizations, and plus he's got the Blue Lodge, it's very easy to quickly get your calendar filled. But it's also one of those things, without having children and not having, too many other commitments, it's not that overwhelming. And it's all in how much you put in is how much you get out, and up to you how committed or busy you want to be,
Mm-hmm. So I know you said you travel a lot. What percentage of your travels end up you stopping by something Masonic related?
Oh gosh, any road trip, anytime we've driven around the state, he will get off and look for, there's this Masonic lodge, or there's this temple, or there's the Shrine Center. And it's cool to see these really old buildings, and to be able to, think. We kind of sit back and we think, can you believe, back in the day, I bet this was like this. And so it's neat. We probably spend I'd say about a third of our time, if we're on a road trip, just looking for different Masonic things or locations, and trying to, kind of scavenger hunt while we're on our way back home or going to wherever we're going.
I can relate, and I know Yvette can relate also.
Absolutely.
Yes, that's what I was going to say. I think all of us in this podcast right now knows how that is. I mean, I know especially, my husband, anywhere we go, he's looking up a lodge, and if they're having lodge that night, or if, and
mm-hmm.
I heard Robert's the same way as well. So
mm-hmm. I like to think that I've probably seen more lodges than most Masons.
You just might have.
I agree.
On how many trips you take. Yeah, for sure.
I agree. So I think that a wife being involved is very important, in her own thing, and as well as just, helping out with a journey. We have spoken in different episodes that we play so many roles. We're supporters, we're the photographers, we're the schedule keepers, we're the organizers almost, and all this. And I think that says a lot, on what we do. And do you feel that way, that it's a big role?
Oh, definitely. I mean, we've had to create separate calendars within calendars and color coding to keep track of, we've got Nile functions in green and Blue Lodge in blue and Shrine in red. And I mean, that's how we just keep up with everything, because it comes down to, who's going to be where and when, and being able to help cover all the bases. And sometimes there's conflicts, and it's divide and conquer, so that's that's kind of the nature of our life.
Right.
I like it. I personally enjoy being able to, be involved and give back. That's the huge thing, is being able to be a part of something where you can do for others.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
So other than just helping others, how do you feel like being part of Daughters of the Nile improves yourself?
Oh gosh, I'm an only child. My husband's an only child. We don't have big family functions. And there have been many times just in these last few years where I have really leaned on these ladies in the Daughters of the Nile in my temple for support, for guidance, for encouragement, just to spend some time with, get my mind off of things. It's really become our extended family. I call them our family because they're our friends that are family. And that's just we spend Thanksgiving with these people, and we go to church with these people, and we are at their different, we're at their kids' concerts and performances, because that's just kind of how we've evolved, and we've gotten to be very close with them. So I think to get out of the organization, there isn't enough that I could probably say about it. I've had nothing but positive experiences, and I've enjoyed so much of it that I can't even imagine I think I would be incredibly bored now going back to not having that part of my life,
Yeah, especially when it's so busy. And like you said, I found that within the journey of this, with my husband being a Mason, I am not involved in any groups here. I was in the Eastern Star for a little bit. Unfortunately, it's so busy for us. I have two daughters, so it's a little hectic with sports and concerts and everything for us. So it's a little hard to conquer all that. We try to make time, and then with Alex, with his podcast and everything that he does with Robert, it's a lot with the traveling. So I'm not involved, but I am involved with some of the wives that I've met throughout this journey, and I think they do end up becoming family, and it's something amazing because you share a connection with them that other people don't normally have.
Definitely. Well, and they can relate to, whenever you're, exhausted, or you have 10,000 loads of laundry that you have desperately just needed to get done, but you've been too busy. So they've been in the same boat, and that's what helps, deal with those busy times, or when you feel like you kind of spread yourself more thin than you should have. But yeah, that's why I enjoy being a part of Nile, because these ladies, for the most part, have a Shriner. And then, of course, most of them have Masons for sure. And they're all in the same boat, doing the same functions, or, being their husbands are at Grand Lodge at the same time, or they're doing, lodge visits, or whatever the case may be. So it's easy to say, let's go have dinner. They're busy. Let's go have dinner and catch up on, our own stuff. So.
Right. I did have a question that I just thought about right now. What you talked about a little bit, that your temple's a little more forward thinking, so they do have the position for the lady to help. Mm-hmm. Do you feel like that's important? Do you feel like that helps the membership and the temple?
Absolutely. You're talking about like with the shrine temple? Yes. And we've gotten more and more support as time has passed, because we've had such a good working relationship with them. And a lot of the ladies that are in our organization have husbands that have been as heavily involved as Cody has been with the shrine. So they know the support that they get. I mean, they've called on us to help sell programs at their circus. They have our lady clowns dress up for performances to take pictures with the kids at the circus. Then they have us help. There's an IHOP day where we will go to an IHOP and just visit with people that are there that day. It's their free pancake stack day, and it's encouraged to make a donation in lieu of paying for your stack of pancakes to the Shriners Hospitals for Children. They call us in to have our own IHOP location and visit with folks there. We help when they do their hospital fundraisers at the different storefronts. So they rely on us to help support them, especially with the decreasing population. And then in return, they're very supportive of our organization. We have usually most of our official, like we have a Supreme Queen that comes for an official visit, and then our Queen's installation, because our president of our organization is called the Queen. Their whole leadership team, which is called the Divan, usually will come and represent the shrine and be there to show their support for our important events too. So it's a good working relationship on both sides, and we encourage membership for them, and they encourage membership for us, because it's so much easier for a lady to look or meet a man and say, I think you'd make a great Mason, or I think you'd make a great Shriner. They, especially at the Blue Lodge, and, obviously can't just go up to someone and approach them to become a Mason. We have that ability, which has been, for our area, for our town here, has been something that's become very helpful. They encourage the ladies to, start conversations and have, those types of opportunities if they can.
Yeah. So then when you guys start those conversations, you guys kind of connect them with the lodges?
Definitely. Definitely. I mean, of course, if it's something nearby the lodge where my husband's at, I always say, if you would like your information, for me to give your information to him, I can definitely do that. Or I can have him get in touch with, or you can get in touch with him. However, that would work best for them. And then, it's at this point, I think survival is so important that it's not about like which lodge gets the most guys. It's just get the men to a lodge. If they live 30 miles away, find the lodge for them and help them figure out who to connect with, if it's, across town or in another town in the state, whatever the case may be, because the survival rate is just, it's so important right now that they have a good experience and that they connect with something and get a good sustainable relationship started, because that's where I think they lose a lot of their momentum, is they fall through the cracks. Somebody supposed to call, somebody else was supposed to call, whatever the case may be. And it's just like with any organization, they've just got to have that really good follow up and to stay on their radar.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
So I know you said you talked to males about that. Do you talk to a lot of females saying that I think that you would benefit from being in Daughters of the Nile, a different organization?
Oh, definitely. Definitely. It's one of those things. I've got friends that right now don't have any of those qualifications to become a Daughter of the Nile, which is so unfortunate, because that's one of the things that we're working towards just about every year at our Supreme Session, is changing the eligibility requirements and trying to figure out ways for them to not have the patient or Masonic or the younger girls organizations affiliations, because it's so easy. The guys can, if they have a desire to join, they can just go to a lodge and say, I want to join. They don't have to have any eligibility per se. Of course, they go through the process of being, interviewed and whatnot, but the ladies, it's still a couple of hurdles that they have to jump through. And so for us, when we meet those new ladies at the shrine ceremonial or at a Blue Lodge that have a spouse that's already in, it's at least one more step closer. And it makes it a lot easier for them to, for us to be able to say, why don't you come to one of our next functions, hang out, see what it's like, meet some of us? Because, as much as you want to connect with an organization and all that it stands for, it's the people that you have to connect with as well. So finding if that's a good fit, if it's something you truly, want to spend time pursuing. But I think the organization itself and what it stands for is always about building up women and trying to, make them feel supported and encouraged. It's been around for over 100 years, and it's been a positive for so many ladies that it's something that it's, for me, a passion to be able to, if I see someone that has that eligibility, to be able to say, I really think you would enjoy this group that I'm a part of, and, would love to have you come and check it out, because it's been nothing but positive for me.
I know, talking to a lot of young women who are either dating or married to a Mason, some of their concerns for joining other groups are either they don't have any time, they would rather spend their time supporting their husband, or they're kind of off-put by the age of many of the groups.
Right. Mm-hmm.
What is something you would say to women so they would feel more comfortable pursuing things themselves? Like, why do you think it's important for them to pursue their own groups rather than just being concerned with time management or just supporting their husband?
For me, it's always in a conversation something that I needed, and I give my own experience, that I needed to have my own place to be able to do my own giving back. I didn't want to have to be tied to him and whatever he was doing as his shadow. So to be involved in Nile and to be able to have the connections, whether it's time, you can be as involved or not as involved as your schedule permits. The way I usually explain it to ladies is to have the option to do as much as you want, as opposed to being limited by not joining. So if you want to be able to be at, every meeting every month, then that's awesome. Join us and be supportive and get involved. And if you only have the, flexibility to show up once or twice a year, but you're always looking for, maybe the hospitals have requested something that we can donate, and you're a deal finder, and you can tell everybody about it so that we can all pick up a pack of Play-Doh or crayons or something like that. Wherever your strengths are, everybody can bring something to the organization, because there's so many places that you can fit into a niche, whether it's, they do a lot of sewing and different crafting items. They do collecting tangible in-kind donations, as well as actual just fundraising. And so everybody has a different strength. And I think as we find these different ladies, seeing where they would fit into the equation, having them join gives them that opportunity at whatever level to be able to give back. Because I think that's something that our generation and even younger generations are really looking for, ways to be able to connect with doing something and giving back, more so than, and it is easy to be able to just, do something for a couple of minutes or make a gesture by, writing a check. But I feel like we like to do things and are action minded. So being able to get in the trenches and do something, as opposed to, just a quick little gesture. And I think that's how they can connect. Because even with their children and all the children's organizations, we work together with the Rainbow Girls for different functions and have them involved in our events. So it's a family, at that point becomes a family affair, to be able to have, dad at his Blue Lodge or the Shrine or Scottish Rite or whatnot, mom and Nile or Eastern Star, and then the kids in either D-Malay or Rainbow Girls. So they can all have their own group and still be giving back and growing in their, their social and their charitable ways.
Mm-hmm. What is the structure? So you guys meet once a month for like business meetings and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
How often do you have like fundraisers and other sorts of events?
There is never a moment that we don't have something coming up. We're a once a month meeting. We meet on the second Tuesday of every month except June, July, and December. And we have usually, at least on those months that we're not dark, we have a sewing Saturday where everyone comes to the temple and they pull out the sewing machines, and you don't have to be able to sew. They do all sorts of projects, from weighted blankets to pillowcases to drawstring bags and tutus and costumes for the kiddos during the Halloween time. But they have all sorts of jobs you can do during that sewing time. Plus they have, either a social function, a fundraiser. We have a Bunco that we do in the summertime where we just get everybody together and we play Bunco on a Saturday. We do we have a chili cook-off coming up in February that we're inviting everyone to. I've got one of those too, so I know how that goes. Mine's over on the other side of the desk. But we have so many different ways for ladies to, come to different functions. There's rarely a month that goes by that, even in our dark months, that we don't have at least one or two functions to be at just for our temple alone.
Okay, well, thank you so much for explaining everything. It was so nice to hear from you and meet you through this interview.
Thank you so much for having me. This has been a pleasure. And I have enjoyed listening to y'all's podcast, because I think it's a great thing that you're doing, helping get as much information out there. Because when I started, it was trying to search the internet was obsolete. There was nothing that I could find to be able to research. So this is a great platform you guys have got here.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Do you have
And
any more parting words for us?
Oh, goodness. I would say that no matter what your affiliation to Masonry is, it's an organization that obviously makes good men better, and by extension gives us the opportunity to be able to do great things as women, because we're already great, but we do get to do even more great things. So just find a place where you can connect in any ladies organization. I am passionate about Daughters of the Nile for the hospitals. If it's too far for you to travel to a Daughters of the Nile temple, since they're more regional, then find an Eastern Star or an LOS or whatever the case may be to be able to get connected. Because I think in the end, you're going to have a positive experience and you're going to get great things out of it.
Absolutely. Well, again, thank you so much. And thank you everyone for being on here. It's been a pleasure. And we will see you guys for another episode.